Okay, wait, before we get started, please comment down below if you agree with me because I had like an existential moment. The opening notes to the song, they're very, very similar to the opening instrumentals in the song Peace off of Folklore, right? Right? Hello everyone, welcome to this video. On my channel, I analyze song lyrics very in depth through the lens of literary analysis. As many of you know, Taylor Swift re-released her Fearless album. It is now Fearless, Taylor's version. In honor of that, I did analyze a few songs from Fearless. We had a 2008 vibes moment. I pretended I still had a MySpace and that I still knew what HTML was. Go ahead and link that below if you're interested. Today we are analyzing a song from The Vault. This was written during the Fearless era, but it was never released. It's called You All Over Me. Not me, Taylor. It's about Taylor. Yeah. Let's get started. On my channel, I've analyzed quite a few songs off of Folklore and Evermore. I'll go ahead and link those playlists below if you're interested. I've also analyzed other Taylor Swift songs that will be linked down below. If you have any requests of songs you'd like me to analyze of Taylor or any artist, leave them down below in a comment. A quick disclaimer before we get started, music is very subjective. Everything presented in this video is my own personal opinion. I always encourage you all to comment down below what your thoughts are. I think that word choice is very important. For that reason on my channel, I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as like the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. Let's get started. In my opinion, there are multiple ways to think about this song title. It is a little bit ambiguous, which means that it has multiple meanings and you don't really know which one is the right one. This song title for me had a before and after meaning. Let me explain. Initially, it had a very cute and flirty connotation. I thought about a couple, like, oh look, they're all over each other, but in a cute and appropriate way. After I heard the song though, I did not think that. I did not think that at all. After I heard the song, I realized the theme in this song is very much the theme that's in the song Clean off of Taylor's album 1989. You All Over Me walked so clean could run. In Clean, there is a lyric that says, "You're all over me like a wine-stained dress I can't wear anymore." I really get the same vibes here. This song title is talking about how your romantic partner can sometimes permeate every fiber of your being. They're all over you. They're not only like on the outside all over you, I would argue they're within you, within your soul, within your thoughts, within your emotions. It's like every single inch of you, they somehow took up residence there. I definitely think that the protagonist of this song, protagonist just means the main character, is feeling kind of desperate to get this other person off. It's like a mess. Their essence has been spilled all over the protagonist, and she has taken many showers and probably baths, and maybe she's even gotten into like a jacuzzi. I don't really know, but whatever she does, it's very difficult to wash that away. Verse 1. Okay, wait. Before we get started, the opening notes to the song, they're very, very similar to the opening instrumentals in the song Peace off of Folklore, right? It can't just be me. It can't just be me. Let me know down below if you agree with me. I don't think it means they're about the same person because they're literally not. This song is said to be about Joe Jonas. I didn't read any interpretations. I always try to avoid that so other people's vibes don't mess with my interpretations. But I literally saw a headline that said like the new Taylor Swift song is about Joe Jonas. So I'm pretty sure it's about that relationship. It makes sense. It's the same era. So I'm not sure why the melody of Peace would be at the beginning of this song. That's something very interesting to think about. She did do something like this in the song Cornelia Street. I actually analyzed that song and I discussed the reason she did that. In the song Cornelia Street, she alluded to a melody from her song Invisible off of her first album. Link it down below if you want to watch. The only thing I can think of is that I'm going to put a timestamp if you don't care about this because I have to like explain this. Okay, so we know that Taylor and Joe Jonas had a moment. They had a moment, and I don't really like the gossipy side of analyzing Taylor Swift lyrics. It's just not my vibe, but this has been well documented in like interviews. She's talked about it, so that's why I am discussing it here. We know that Joe broke up with Taylor over a very short phone call. She discussed this on the Ellen Show. The song Last Kiss off of her album Speak Now is about Joe Jonas. I'm probably going to analyze Last Kiss on this channel soon because the intro is the same length as the phone call, and the song You All Over Me is actually kind of linked to Last Kiss because in Last Kiss, the love interest is described as walking with his hands in his pockets. That same descriptor is in this song, so they're about the same person. Joe Jonas allegedly. In the song Last Kiss, there's a lyric that says, "Forever the name on my lips." Okay. I had like an existential crisis when I discussed this in the song Invisible String. I'll link that down below if you want to watch. Like, you guys, her current boyfriend, which is like the album Lover is about her current boyfriend, Joe Alwyn. His name is Joe Alwyn. His name is Joe. So Joe is potentially going to be the name that's forever on her lips. You just had the wrong Joe. Like, how did she do that? Right? The reason I'm saying this is because the song Peace, this is like a web. I need to like draw it out on a whiteboard. The song Peace that the beginning melody of this song sounds very similar to is about Joe Alwyn and Taylor's relationship, in my opinion. I analyzed the song Peace very in depth. I will link it below if you want to watch. I talked about how the song Peace is about Taylor's concerns about her relationship with Joe Alwyn. The fact that this song, You All Over Me, is about Joe Jonas, allegedly, and the song Peace is about Joe Alwyn, allegedly, perhaps she put the melody from Peace at the beginning of this song to show that she's over this and it's fine. This is just literally a song from the vault. No ill feelings. She has the right Joe. Maybe that's what's going on. It's like linking the songs together and being like, hey, after you listen to this, go listen to Peace because that's where I'm at right now. This is like 2008 vibes. We layered tank tops with different lengths back then. It was a different time. So I think that could be a possibility. Please let me know what you think down below. I'm very shook about this. Now, let's get started. Once the last drop of rain has dried off the pavement, shouldn't I find a stain? But I never do. The way the tires churn stones on old county roads, they leave them muddy underneath, reminds me of you. You find graffiti on the walls of old bathroom stalls. You know, you can scratch it right off. It's how it used to be. But like the dollar in your pocket that's been spent and traded in, you can't change where it's been. Reminds me of me. I really enjoy this verse. Let's talk about the image that's being expressed here. She's talking about the pavement, like concrete or asphalt on the ground. She's talking about the way it looks after it's rained and the rain is drying. So when you have rain or water drying on concrete or asphalt, you kind of see the outline still. It's not really wet, it's dry, but you can still see the outline. It's like a stain. It's evidence that rain occurred. That's what this image is. This is really cool. I am reading, shouldn't I find a stain as a question. So it's like, once the last drop of rain has dried off the pavement, shouldn't I find a stain? I never do. Let's break this down. First, I want to look at the word once. The word once to me is significant because it makes this feel urgent and important. The second the last drop has dried, we're supposed to pay attention to something. It's like a very sudden thing. It's an all at once thing. The fact that it's the first word of this song to me is significant because we are entering this song with a sense of urgency. I'm kind of like paying attention, like once what, what's going on. Let's talk about rain. Rain is a sort of water imagery. I've discussed water imagery on my channel. There was a really cool instance of water imagery in the song Cardigan by Taylor Swift that I analyzed. I'm gonna link my Cardigan analysis down below for you because the water imagery in that song is probably one of my favorite literary things about Taylor Swift songs like ever. In fact, Cardigan was probably one of my favorite songs to analyze. The metaphors are so exquisite and the diction is so heartbreaking. So if you're gonna watch any other video by me, I would recommend Cardigan. I was very shook when I analyzed that. Such a beautiful song. Water is usually a very positive image. It's cleansing, and water comes in many forms. Sometimes it's in the form of an ocean or of a river, a moving body of water, but here it's rain. We don't know if this rain was part of a storm or if it was a light drizzle on a beautiful summer day. We don't know. Maybe there was a rainbow, maybe there wasn't. For me, given the contents of this song, I am interpreting the rain as being rainfall from a storm or a very hard downpour because the protagonist here is trying to look for evidence that this storm occurred. She's looking for the outline on the concrete, but it's not there. The rain is part of the storm that was this relationship or the breakup. It represents the emotional turmoil that the ex caused the protagonist. When it's raining on you, it can kind of get all over you, right? If you don't have an umbrella or a super cute rain outfit like I have in Animal Crossing, the rain is going to get all over you. The image that is being presented to us of rain on the pavement, it's something you can physically see, and other people can see it too, so they can validate you. The only proof she has are intangible things, her thoughts and her emotions. No one else can see them and no one else can feel them. It's a very lonely and isolating sort of dynamic to be in. You're like, wait, it did rain though, right? I remember feeling the rain on me, but I don't see any proof of it. The way the tires turn stones on old county roads, leave them muddy underneath, reminds me of you. I imagine a car driving. Since this is an old road, I imagine the stones aren't like set super firmly. This heavy, loud, big truck that's probably blasting music that's not even that great is gonna come and it's gonna overturn the rocks. The rocks are going to have to leave their place. They're out of place now. There's gonna be like a muddy mess. Reminds me of you. The car in this metaphor is the love interest or the ex-love interest. The protagonist is the stone that was in the road. This car reminds her of her ex because he did the exact same thing to her. She was living her life. She had her cute little spot in her metaphorical road and she was just doing her thing. He came and he drove into her life. He drove over her and misplaced her. So she's out of place now. The place she's at is messed up. It's all muddy. It's not clean. She feels like this person kind of overturned her life, just like this stone has been overturned out of its proper place. It's interesting that this is an old county road. If you're driving on an old road like this, you have to be more careful. Perhaps it's known that they're more fragile. Maybe she's viewing herself as being something relatively fragile that needed to be handled with care and consideration, but it wasn't. What the car is doing here is a sort of destruction. It's reminding her of her ex because he destroyed her in a way. You find graffiti on the walls of old bathroom stalls. You know, you can scratch it right off. It's how it used to be. So now we are leaving the old county road and we are going into an old bathroom stall, probably in like a middle school or a high school. She's talking about the graffiti on the stall, like so-and-so plus so-and-so forever drawn in a heart. That sort of vibe. This image to me connotes a feeling of innocence, kind of like a crush. Perhaps she felt innocently about the relationship. She had that giddy, innocent feeling. Those little love notes of forever on these bathroom stalls have no meaning and no value because they can be scratched right off so easily. She says it's how it used to be. There's different ways you can interpret this. I'm envisioning like a heart that says like TS plus JJ for Joe Jonas, allegedly. And under the initials, it's gonna say hashtag allegedly, okay? Because allegedly. That heart is a representation of how it used to be, of the past. So it should no longer be on display. When you do something like that, write your initials on a bathroom stall. I've never done that, but I assume when you do that, that means you are feeling a lot of heightened emotions about your relationship and you want to kind of commemorate it in a way. It makes it seem like something that you thought was so significant and so long lasting that you wanted to write it where everyone could see. Something that profound can be taken away so easily by just scratching it off. But like the dollar in your pocket that's been spent and traded in, you can't change where it's been. Reminds me of me. The protagonist is aligning herself with this dollar in the pocket. When you replace the word dollar with the protagonist, it's so heartbreaking because she feels spent and traded in. She feels used by this other person, maybe taken advantage of a little bit. Perhaps she was more invested in this relationship. She felt like she gave too much of herself away. When you spend money, you use it to buy something, to get something in return. So it's like this ex spent her, used her, and got something in return, got her affection, got her attention, etc. She also could feel emotionally spent from this, emotionally tired. The phrase traded in is very heartbreaking. I mean, you trade money for like an item or a service, but when you're talking about a human feeling traded in, this is referring to the other person moving on and finding another partner. So I think the protagonist feels like her ex just found someone better and traded up This model was traded for a newer model. It's that sort of vibe. It's a very dehumanizing feeling to have because it's being represented by a dollar bill, by money. In the context of a relationship, or really even anything, a human being should not be represented as money. It's very dehumanizing and it seems very transactional. There's no emotion in it, it's just business. Business and love are not things that should overlap. Not if it's a true pure love, right? I'm talking metaphorically. It's a dollar bill, which is the least value bill. So she feels worthless. It seems like, in her opinion, the situation was not handled with care. We can tell she was really hurt by it. You can't change where it's been, reminds me of me. This line is really interesting. Money goes all over the world, right? When you have a dollar bill, it's been all over the world. I remember some dollar bills have like a website you can go to see where it's been. I've never gone on that website, but I remember like seeing the stamp on the dollar bill. Are they even allowed to do that? Like, is that legal to like stamp it? Anyways, if you're holding a dollar bill, you don't know where it's coming from. I think that's what this is alluding to. She is saying that you can't change where this dollar bill has been, but you're still gonna like use it. For the protagonist, just like this dollar bill, she kind of doesn't have control over where she's been. She feels powerless in this situation. The people who have the money dictate where the money goes. She feels like she was put in this position by someone else. She can't change where she's been. She's constantly being moved around by other people. She doesn't have the power to stay where she wants to stay or go where she wants to go. When she's the stone in the county road, the car pushed it out of its place. She had no say in that situation. When she's the dollar bill, the person who's holding the bill dictates where it goes. She feels pushed around. Very much feels like a product of her circumstance. She just wants to like move herself. That's very poignant when you think about it. Wow. Chorus. I lived and I learned, had you, got burned, held out and held on, God knows, too long, and wasted time, lost tears, swore that I'd get out of here, but no amount of freedom gets you clean. I've still got you all over me. This whole song is her reminiscing about this relationship, being in her feels about it. She's processing everything. I lived and I learned, had you, got burned. This relationship aged her in a way, kind of hardened her a little bit. She lived through this relationship. Sometimes you break up with someone and it hurts, but you kind of get over it relatively easily. You're just kind of moping around for like 2 weeks, but then you're like back to yourself. But then sometimes a breakup, just like you go through it. And it's so random how it happens sometimes. Maybe this other breakup that was relatively easy was a longer relationship, and this other one that's really difficult was a shorter relationship. But for some reason or another, some breakups just really make you go through it. You have to kind of suffer through it and grow. You learn a lot, but it's very painful. That's what this diction here, the word lived, is referring to. This breakup was a very significant life event for her, like very significant. It was like a trilogy, like a Lord of the Rings trilogy that she had to like fight her way through. Orlando Bloom was probably there looking really great with his long blonde hair. And there were probably like those really scary hooded things on horses looking for her, and she had to be like, oh my god, no, like I don't want this. Then she has to go and take the ring to like that place and put it in the fire, and then everything will be okay, I think. I realized that I kind of forgot the plot of Lord of the Rings, so if you want to refresh my memory, comment it down below, feel free. The point, this healing from the breakup is a journey, something that she cannot come out of unscathed. She's gonna be a very different person after she heals from this. And I learned, this goes with what I said earlier, the fallout from that relationship ending is gonna cause her to have to learn and grow and change. Had you got burned. So despite this trilogy of a journey that she has to go through to heal, she's still recognizing that she had this other person. She's like, I suffered, I'm learning, I had you for a moment. She thought that this person was going to be something really positive. Again, I'm thinking about the innocent image of graffiti in bathroom stalls, but she got burned by this. She had this person, which was supposed to be a very positive thing for her, but she got burned by it. It hurt her. This is an instance of fire imagery. I talk about fire imagery a lot on my channel. I will list the videos down below where I discuss fire imagery so you can see how it plays out in different songs. Two of the main songs that had fire imagery were Peace by Taylor Swift, Ivy by Taylor Swift. Since we're talking about a relationship, I'm equating this mention of fire as being representative of the passion she might have felt in this relationship. I talk about passion a lot on my channel too, a lot in my Summertime Sadness lyric analysis. Passion can be a very beautiful thing, but if it's not a balanced, healthy sort of passion, it can get out of hand and hurt you. In this instance, I feel like her passion was not reciprocated. It ended up backfiring and hurting her. Held out and held on. I love how the word held is repeated here. It's a part of a phrase each time, and the phrases have different meanings. I just find that very interesting. Held out means that she kind of like put her feet down. She wasn't the one who gave up. So she held out and held on. I think she is holding on to perhaps the memory of this person, a possibility that things will work out down the line. I think she's doing whatever she can to hold on to that feeling she had at the beginning where she was more optimistic about this when that graffiti was initially drawn on that bathroom stall. God knows, too long. She held on to that possibility for far too long. The fact that she says God knows she held on for too long is very significant because we have like divine, not intervention, but like divine knowledge in a way, right? This is a saying, like God knows this is true, but it's very significant because you're bringing God into this. This is such a tangible emotion for her that God can like validate it for her. So the protagonist will be like, I held on for way too long. And then you can imagine God being like, this is true. Being like, you should have not done that. It caused you too much pain and wasted time. So hindsight is 2020. She realizes now that she wasted her time, lost tears, swore that I'd get out of here. So she feels bad about giving anything to this person, even her tears, because it feels like this person still has the power over them. You're shedding tears about them. It's heartbreaking because even to get over this person, the process requires you to be like under their power still, because you're crying about them. Your tears are for them. So she feels like she's losing something sacred a little bit. Her tears, which are representative of her pain, they're technically like because of him. They're like his tears. He caused it. That's really heartbreaking. And another heartbreaking thing about this is that while she is doing all of this, while she is on this Lord of the Rings trilogy journey, her ex probably isn't feeling anything, right? They're probably already over it. So like when you juxtapose, juxtaposition is placing things side by side for the purpose of comparison. What the ex was like after the breakup and what she went through, you can assume that they're completely opposite. Swore that I'd get out of here. The word here is referring to like an emotional and mental place, in my opinion. The place in which the protagonist is existing after the breakup. She's like, I need to get out of here. I need to do the work and figure out how to emotionally and mentally get to a better place. And she swore to herself. She made a sacred promise to herself that she cannot stay in that place. She needs to get out. Maybe she wanted to go to like Rivendell. Is that the place where the elves were? That place was very beautiful. Maybe I should stop talking about Lord of the Rings since I don't really know a lot about it. Just stay in my lane and talk about Hilary Duff movies from the early 2000s like I do in every other video. It's fine. But no amount of freedom gets you clean. I've still got you all over me. So the freedom here can be referring to a few different things, in my opinion. It can be referring to the breakup. I don't think she wanted to be free. I think she wanted to stay in that relationship. I personally think this freedom is referring to her kind of distancing herself from that person and from the relationship, actively trying to not think about it, trying to keep busy. That is a sort of freedom. The amount of the freedom can increase when she gets better at, not thinking about that person. But she's saying no matter how free I get from this, no amount of freedom gets you clean. We talked about how if this was like a rainstorm, the rain would be all over her. She's kind of like marked by this person. This also reminds me again of the song Clean from 1989, the wine stained dress she can't wear anymore. But when I hear the phrase get clean, I also think of drug use. This person may have been like a drug to her. She was addicted and hooked on them. They had the power. She was dependent on him. So that's another way to think about it. No matter how much distance she's putting between herself and this relationship, she still is immersed in it in a way. It's like all over her and you can't escape from yourself. Verse 2. The best and worst day of June was the one that I met you. What a good lyric. With your hands in your pockets and your don't you wish you had me grin. Well, I did, so I smiled and I melted like a child. Now every breath of air I breathe reminds me of then. I love this verse so much. I think every verse in the song is my favorite verse. It's all so beautifully written. The best and worst day of June was the one that I met you. I love the specificity here. She mentions the month. I talk about this a lot. I enjoy lyrics that are very specific. You would think that it's not relatable, but I would argue that it's more relatable when things are very specific because you can imagine them and it's like a diary entry set to music, which is very beautiful. She still doesn't like hate this person. A part of her still has feelings for this person. The reason I say she still likes them in a way is because she still uses the word best. This whole breakup ruined her in a way. She had to really build herself back up, but she's still using the word best. The best and the worst day was when she met this person. She really wanted it to work out. She had no say in it not working out. She was broken up with. So meeting him was a very beautiful thing because she had such strong feelings for him. She was very enamored by him. But it's one of the worst days too because he came into her life and ended up hurting her. She's feeling opposite emotions about this person at the same time and it's heartbreaking. She has all these opposite opposing emotions all over her. And when it's all over you, you're constantly thinking about it. You don't even know how to feel because these feelings are in opposition. It's very confusing. This does kind of fit the timeline of being about Joe Jonas. There's a lyric in Last Kiss that says that July 9th, the beat of your heart, it jumps through your shirt. I can still feel your arms. Speak Now was a really great album, y'all. It should be hyped more. With your hands in your pockets, again, alluding to the song Last Kiss. The song is about the same person, Joe Jonas, allegedly. Your Don't You Wish You Had Me grin. From that, we can tell what the dynamic is in this relationship. She was more invested than him. There's a saying that whoever cares the least wins. They have the greater power. In this dynamic, the protagonist cared more, so that's why she's represented as being powerless through all of the metaphors in this song. The ex had power over her. That's just how the dynamic naturally happened. He looked at her knowing that she was into him. His grin said it all. Don't you wish you had me? He was like confident. He's like, I know you like me. He already knew this. The power dynamic from the very beginning is like off balance. He had a lot more power over the protagonist. And you know what the thing is? I think she was in love with him, like truly, because she couldn't help herself. After she talks about his Don't You Wish You Had Me grin, she says, well, I did, so I smiled and I melted like a child. She recognized that he was being cocky, right? Usually you're like, whatever, like you're so full of yourself. I'm not into you. But she was so into him that she couldn't put on a show. She couldn't save face. She was like, yes, it's true. I do want you. She melted like a child. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes your emotions are just gonna overpower your own self-control. And that's what happened here. She melted like a child. When you feel like a child, you are powerless. I talked about that in my analysis of the song Tolerate It by Taylor Swift. I'll link it down below for you. This is not the same sort of dynamic as in Tolerate It at all, but the mention of being childlike is the same dynamic. In this song, she feels like a child because she has no power and she's just kind of like melting away in his presence, awestruck by him. She's like a kid. She feels innocent and giddy. It's like a schoolgirl crush. Again, going back to the graffiti on the bathroom stalls. It's like a puppy love sort of dynamic, but it's a puppy love with a lot of depth because she wrote a lot of very intense songs about this breakup. It's like a Lord of the Rings-esque puppy love scenario. So this is like really intense. I think it might have started as puppy love, but then it graduated and became a legit love situation on her part. Now, every breath of air I breathe reminds me of then. This is very intense. She's saying that literally every breath of air she breathes reminds her of then. Not a specific type of air, not like a specific scent, a specific cologne. And honestly, I still remember the cologne that she said that Joe Jonas wore. I think it was like Prada or something. Like, we know a lot of details about this, y'all. And then I remember she tweeted one time that she got a whiff of that cologne and it took her back. Like, this was talked about by her. She like legit tweeted this. Like, I have a vivid memory of this tweet. Please comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. But she's saying every breath she breathes. So her just existing reminds her of this relationship. I don't think it even reminds her. I think she's constantly thinking about it 24/7. It's always in the background of her existence. It's like on repeat in the background of her mind. And she's very specific with this. Notice how she says this. She's not saying with every breath I take. She's saying with every breath of air I breathe. It's like you're visualizing the air, and she's compartmentalized the air into the little breaths. Every single one of these little ones is going to remind her of this other person. This is a very large amount of breaths in the air, right? It's like an infinite amount. She is constantly thinking about this person and feeling these emotions about this breakup. It's not only all over her, it's all around her too. There's no escape for her. Then we have repetition of the chorus. Now we have the last verse, the bridge. I lived and I learned and found out what it was to turn around and see that we were never really meant to be. So I lied and I cried, and I watched a part of myself die, because no amount of freedom gets you clean. I've still got you all over me. I've still got you all over me. Still got you all over me. I lived and I learned, those are repeated lyrics. The following is a new lyric, and found out what it was to turn around and see that we were never really meant to be. She's saying here that through living through this, experiencing this, and learning about it, she was able to turn around, I'm gonna say, her perspective, and really understand that they were never meant for each other. When you take a step back and when time passes, you're able to see the situation more for what it was. You're able to see the negatives and possible red flags. So I think that's what that is alluding to here. This shows self-awareness by the protagonist. I'm glad she was able to get to that place. That's a very important part of healing, and that realization is what allows you to move on. It's like you're giving yourself a sense of closure, which is very helpful, right? So I lied and I cried and I watched a part of myself die. I think she lied to herself about various aspects of that relationship and that person. Maybe she lied initially to herself without even knowing it, believing that they were truly meant to be together. She cried, we know this. She lost a lot of her tears over this, and I watched a part of myself die. That's very intense, right? Like I mentioned earlier, she is coming out of this a completely different person. She kind of is having an out-of-body experience for a second. While this was going on, she had self-awareness. She was able to notice herself changing. She realized that she was not the person she used to be, and a part of her was dying. She was wounded. She was really, really hurt by this. She was a stone that was thrown out of its place in an old county road. She was a dollar that was used up and didn't have control over where she went. So she felt dehumanized a little bit, and she witnessed this too. This is very heartbreaking, but we know that this protagonist is a phoenix and rose from the ashes. She's coming back stronger than a 90s trend perhaps. That lyric shows self-awareness. The fact that she is able to say that now suggests that she's past it. I feel like she's singing this part from a healed place, because no amount of freedom gets you clean. And then there's repetition of the phrase, I've still got you all over me. That's repeated 3 times. In all of my videos, I say that repetition signifies significance. I believe that when words or phrases are repeated, it's very important. It's the songwriter giving us a message, especially when that songwriter is Taylor Swift. I do understand that what's being repeated here is the title of the song, but still, I think it's important. It's interesting it's ending on that note. You could argue, even though she's past this, even though she may be singing from a more healed place, maybe she's still in it a little bit. She still has him all over her. So that's a possibility. It makes sense because with heartbreak, sometimes you can get over it, but it can still hurt. That could be what that's alluding to here. It's really ironic that she's trying to get over this person, but this person is emotionally, literally all over her. That's not helpful now, is it? It says watched myself die, so it's in past tense. So that's why I think she's in a more healed, balanced place now. She's just remembering how intense it was. It was all over her for a very long time. In conclusion, this song is about trying to get over someone, but their memories and their essence is all over you. It feels like you can't get clean no matter how much you try to scrub them off. Also kind of like they were a drug. Taylor did a really beautiful job of describing this feeling of just trying to move past something, but kind of being held back a little bit. That's all I have for this song. Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want, make sure to share this video with your friends and fellow Swifties. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Okay, bye.